Kia ora koutou, nā ia tētahi kiriata hei whakamārama Mihimihi. Te mihi tuatahi ki te kāhui ako katorika, te māra akoranga katorika. I te tautoko o tēnei mahi. Te mihi tuarua ki ngā tangata I tuku awhina ki au ki te hanga tēnei kiriata. Ko Josh Halkett ahau, he ASL ahau I te kāhui nei, nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. This video is designed to give some generic guidance around how you can introduce yourself in Te Reo Māori. I'm going to go over some possible phrases to use within a structured Mihimihi. First, let's look at what usually comprises a mihi. It can include pepeha, the tribal motto or sharing of tribal ancestry through speech, followed by whakapapa, genealogy, followed by a mihimihi, an introduction of who you are. How we mihi is going to depend on if you're Māori or not. A pepeha and specific tribal information can be included in a mihi for people of Māori descent. If you or your students whakapapa Māori, consult with someone more knowledgeable on the specifics of the iwi. This video focuses more on mihimihi and doesn't include advice around pepeha because it's a kaupapa of greater significance than the scope of this video. People of Pacifica descent may want to include similar elements to Māori in a pepeha of sorts. If you or your students are Pacifica, you might include a mountain, awa, place, whakapapa, or saying from your ancestral homeland. For everyone, this video is a guide, but it depends on what you're comfortable including and what's relevant to you. I've put this together as a beginner's guide, and it should only be used as one of many valid ways to introduce yourself in Te Reo. Once you get to learning how, you'll find out what suits you best, but this is a good place to start. Now let's look at how to start your mihimihi. The following are some phrases that you can use as a greeting. Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora koutou, tēnā rā koutou, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. So choose one and let's start our mihi. Once you've said your greeting, when starting your mihimihi, you should always start at the top and work your way down. That means you start with your ancestors and finish with you. Here are some phrases that speak about your ancestors. You can choose what sounds best for you, fill in the blanks with the right information. The first example, he uri ahau no, means I descend from. The second, no oku tipuna, says my ancestors come from. The next adds detail. I tai mai oku tipuna ki Aotearoa I te tau. My ancestors arrived in New Zealand in the year. And the last adds to that phrase where they came from at that time. I tai mai oku tipuna ki Aotearoa mai I te tau. Choose which phrase suits you best. No ko te rana oku tipuna. My ancestors are from Scotland. For this section of a mihimihi, you might like to include where you're from. This is another element for the audience to get an idea of who you are and listen for connection building. There are some options for saying things about yourself. The first simply says, no ahau, I'm from. The next, I tipu ake ahau, I, is good if you want to say where you grew up. I whānau mai au ki means I was born in. The last two phrases are a different way of saying I live in. Kei e noho ana ahau. E noho ana ahau ki. You could add more local information here if you're talking to people from Ōtautahi. You could say which suburb you lived in that sentence structure. For this example, let's choose I tipu ake ahau I Tamaki Makaurau kei Ōtautahi e noho ana ahau. We usually introduce ourselves by saying what we do for work and what responsibilities we have. It's important in Mihimihi too, so people know who you are and what relevant information they need to know about you in this context. The following are some phrases that are useful for saying what it is you do. I'm a teacher at, I'm a worker at, I'm a student at, I learn at, my child is called, and I have learned there for years. For this example, we're going to go with he akonga ahau I te kura of your choice, e waru ngā tau kua ako au I ko rā. I've learned there for 8 years. Now we've introduced our whakapapa and a little bit of information about ourselves, it's time to say who we are. These 3 sentences all pretty much say the same thing. My name is, I am, or this is, respectively. Just choose which sounds best to you. Ko, whatever, tōku ingoa. At the end of your Mihimihi, it's polite to finish off with a phrase like these. Just like everything else in this example video, there are many more ways to say these things. However, here are some ideas of things you could say. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, therefore greetings to you. Kia ora koutou, be well everyone. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou, therefore a big greeting to you all. Nō reira, nei te mihi mai oha ki a koutou, therefore here's the affectionate greeting to you. For this example, we'll go with Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou. Now that you've put together a string of phrases that introduce yourself in a Mihimihi, you're ready to share it. Tēnā koutou katoa, no ko te rana oku tipuna, I tipu ake ahau I tamaki makaurau. Kei o tautahi e noho ana ahau. He akonga ahau I te kura, e waru ngā tau kua ako au I ko rā, ko whatever tōku ingoa, nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou. The next step is to know how to tailor your Mihimihi to suit different contexts. Once you're comfortable using a group of phrases like these, you could experiment with adding more and changing how you say everything. When you come to deliver this Mihimihi, you should keep in mind who's listening, what they need to know about you, how many people are going to Mihimihi. If you are meeting someone new for the first time, you could think of it like ear time. If there's just 2 of you, you both get more time to introduce more information about yourselves. Now, if there are more people in the group, you may wish to keep it more brief for the sake of time. Just keep in the most important bits and leave out things that might be not so relevant. So for this example, we might say we'll leave out where we're living because everybody in this group knows we're from Otatahi. In settings with larger groups, the more people that are speaking, you might want to consider leaving out some of the information just for the sake of time so that everybody gets a fair share at introducing the most important things about themselves. For in this context, we might take out how many years we studied at the school we were at. And in the busiest of contexts, we might only introduce ourselves in the briefest way. So we might leave where we studied and where our ancestors come from to make it really simple. Tēnā koutou katoa, he akonga ahau I te kura, ko whatever tōku ingoa. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou. In education, we'll end up giving our Mihimihi in a range of different contexts, so we need to be prepared to modify what we say to suit those different settings. You might have noticed that I've left off some of the usual information we see in Mihi templates, such as who our parents are, siblings, children, etc. This is because in most school and professional settings, it's not so relevant. But use your judgment as to what to include. There are lots of templates out there that you can use. One of the better ones is shown here, which comes from the Auckland City Libraries. The most important thing to remember is a Mihimihi is a chance for people to get to know a little bit about you, and it's relevant to which setting you're in. So keep your audience in mind when you're choosing what to say in your Mihimihi. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koe I tō whakarongo mai ki tēnei kiriata. Kei te tino hīkaka ahau ki te whakarongo ki ngā mihimihi o ngā kaiako, tamariki, tangata katoa hoki o te kahuiako katorika. Thank you all for listening, and I hope this has been helpful.